Chris.
Heath.
Oh, man, I got so much to tell you.
As do I.
Good thing we have an audio format that we can tell each other these things.
Yeah, it's really fortunate we have this platform to discuss things like video games.
That's right, here at the podcast, Mobius Tubes. I just wanted to plug the name one more time.
Right, we need to plug the name. We need to advertise this as much as we possibly can.
That's right. So, today is actually going to be the last episode of the year.
Is it?
Well, I mean...
Presumably.
The 20th. I don't know how busy you're going to be during the holidays.
Probably not at all.
Oh, then we might be able to squeeze in one more.
Oh yeah, we can go real hard.
When we hit 2019, are you going to be that guy that says, "Oh, we've been podcasting for a year"? Since last year. Yeah.
Since last year would be correct. The past 12 calendar months would be kind of embellishing.
Okay, we won't milk it to that extent. All right. Would you like to first go into your week?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And my week actually started with Heath and another mutual friend by the name of Dan, where we dove into some local multiplayer Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
I got my first touch, but I'll let you tell everyone how much I stomped you like it was Evo.
Your Captain Falcon knee was a force to be reckoned with.
Banned in several states.
I'll say that much. Yeah, you actually introduced me to a mode I didn't even know existed where between each round of play, every character you've selected previously gets disqualified from being a future pick. So the roster narrows down smaller and smaller between each game, forcing you to adapt your playstyle on the fly. I liked it a lot.
I'm rushing to look up what that mode was called so that people can look for it on their menus.
That's a good idea. I couldn't help you with that. There's just a lot of multiplayer content in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It's fair to say there's a lot of content in the game. Smashdown. It seems like an appropriate name as you narrow down the roster, you smash down.
Yes, yeah. The characters previously used are rendered unavailable for remaining matches.
What did you think of the mode?
I thought it was really fun. It does prevent you from unlocking new characters in between the modes. So it's pretty much a once the roster's been unlocked, go-to place if you have people who want to like show their stuff. Because I wanted to keep Dan away from Yoshi as much as possible.
Agreed. Yeah, that was to both of our benefit.
But yeah, that was a great mode. And as far as my impression of Ultimate, I'm going to take the baton. I think it's lots of fun. It's a big surprise. We played a couple of items and Final Smash metered bouts, but I really preferred no items. And that's not something that I was certain of prior to playing. I thought with the cool assist trophies that, Sakurai's put so much into the mechanics and the items, and to turn those off felt like a disservice before I did it, but I can't deny that it's just way more gratifying to rely on your own techniques. I guess if I was less familiar with the series, I would like it more, but for me, the items off. Get those out of here.
I kind of feel similarly. I spent 1 year in college living with a roommate who was into the competitive Melee scene. After receiving scornful glances from him whenever I enabled items, I'm now partial to the no-item Smash Bros. Variety.
I can see that scornful glance that is ubiquitous among the Melee community. But yeah, it's the better way to play. You were playing with... Okay, so spoiler, the question I have at the end of this podcast, because you had a question last episode, right, and I am going to offer a question back to you this one. You were playing with the Switch controller. Yeah,
the two Joy-Cons kind of connected together with a handheld grip.
Yes, because I was really happy that I didn't have to play with half a Joy-Con, or you know what I mean,
right?
A Joy-Con.
A Joy-Con horizontally in your hands.
We never broke those out for Dan and I, but it would have been interesting to see how that would have affected my gameplay.
how big are your hands? I guess the bigger your hands, the less advantageous that would have been.
I am well suited to the simplicity of the Joy-Con.
Okay. Yeah, you and Dan were using Switch Pro controllers. How did those feel to you?
Well, I'll get into that in my question.
Okay, interesting.
Anything else for Smash? Did you do any World of Light stuff?
Just more World of Light. I appreciate like the past Smash Bros. Games. You buy them for the multiplayer. The single player offerings are usually not what's going to get you into the Smash Bros. Scene.
Well, you say that, but lest we remind everybody that my first Smash game was Brawl, and so when I think of Smash, I think of Subspace Emissary. So I'm looking at this World of Light, and I'm like, hello, 12-year-old me. I'm going to fight Crazy Hand.
This doesn't have like the amount of cool cutscenes that Subspace Emissary has. And it's pretty long. It's like 20 to 30 hours to do everything. It gets kind of repetitive. It's definitely a mode that's kind of well suited to the Switch as a portable console. You can dip into World of Light and dip out pretty quickly, like knock off a couple fights and feel accomplished. Probably not a mode that lends itself well to sitting down and devoting many hours in a row to playing it, because you'll start to feel like you're just grinding out.
I hear what you're saying. I can probably picture me not enjoying it as much as I am enjoying watching other people play it. I flipped on to the Rising Super stream and watched Liam play through it on hard, and that's really enjoyable. And then I caught a little bit of Mewtwo King, the Melee god.
Yes, yeah.
He was playing Spiritless. So no abilities.
Okay.
And I caught him fighting the final boss, and just watching him scum his way and then choke at various moments was fun for me.
I actually found the one gimmick spirit you were talking about, Buzz, the tiny hitbox Mr. Game & Watch.
Yeah.
I actually I missed the first hit and then got him on the second, so it was a very anticlimactic fight.
All right.
Another fun gimmick one I encountered was Snorlax. It's a timed fight.
Is it like Incineroar?
He has like 500% health. You need to reduce him down to 0.
Who's he portrayed by? King K. Rool?
Oh man, I actually don't remember.
It's gotta be King K. Rool.
That sounds like a good guess.
Or maybe it's like Donkey Kong.
He just stands stationary, doesn't react to anything. You're just trying to beat the clock to get him down to 0 health. I haven't succeeded yet.
Oh, really? Even with your massive DPS Ike?
Yeah, even with massive...
Well, you might not even have access to Ike.
I don't have Ike. I have Marth,
in
though.
In World of Light mode.
Correct.
Yeah.
Shall we move on to another subject?
Well, hold on, because I'm going to introduce a new segment called Corrections.
Okay.
Because last episode, I described how I enjoyed gacha games.
Yes.
And I said how the term gacha was like a portmanteau of gotta catch 'em all. Instead of loot gathering, it's like character gathering. That's not what gacha means. Gacha means capsule toy, and it's similar to loot boxes. It induces players to spend money. So I wouldn't categorize Smash as a gacha game, even though I heard somebody say that in like a Nintendo Direct, so I blame that person. But examples of gacha games, and you can let me know if you've played any of these: Fire Emblem Heroes, Puzzle and Dragons, Monster Strike, Kingdom Hearts Union X, Final Fantasy, Brave Exvius. You play any of these?
I've only heard of Fire Emblem Heroes.
They're really popular in Japan.
Okay.
Like this decade.
These are like microtransactions that they're charging you for?
Well, the main mechanic is that you spend currency. There's usually numerous characters. Oh, maybe Smash is a gacha game. Usually numerous characters, cards, and other items that people can obtain. Most of them are only obtainable via this gacha system. The gacha mechanism would allow players to spin the gacha using a specific amount of in-game currency, which would give players a randomized character or item. Oh, so maybe like the spirit board, where you have like a chance to shoot the guy after you beat him in the battle, and if you don't get, like, you know how there's the spinning circle around the character, and if you miss, it takes a chunk of the circle out, and you could fire again by spending the in-game currency. Maybe Smash is a gacha game. Point being, the reason I like Smash is not because it has gacha mechanics. I just like it for big number go up when I level up my characters with snacks.
A rewarding progression system.
It's really cool to see the Toad spirit. He turns into Captain Toad. I like that.
Oh, that is cool.
There's just like a little innate reaction to, oh, yay, he's better now. So that's it for corrections. If there are any other corrections that need correcting, let us know.
I actually have another game to talk about from this past week, and I have a lot to say. So I've actually completed Dishonored, Death of the Outsider.
New Vegas.
Yes, the New Vegas to Dishonored 2, you could say.
So you completed it, but it's like a 6-hour game?
Yeah, it took me in the ballpark of 7 hours to complete. I will probably do another playthrough down the line. Because
like you said last episode.
Dishonored games very, very much lend themselves to a second or third playthrough.
Minimum.
Otherwise, you're not getting the full experience. But here's what I'll say. All of the Dishonored fundamentals, the core gameplay loops, all of that stuff is intact, which means if you're a Dishonored fan like me, you're going to very much enjoy the game. And I did enjoy the game quite a bit. But with that said, of all the mainline Dishonored releases, this is by far the weakest in the bunch. There's a few factors that play into that. First of all, it released only 1 year after Dishonored 2, so it had a very short development cycle. And there's a few glaring pieces of evidence in the game that indicate that this is true. It's a game with 5 levels in it. Of those 5 levels, 2 of them take place in the exact same district of the city. You're just going back into the
tutorial town?
You don't see the tutorial town again, but 2 of the longer, more fleshed out levels are in the same section of the city. Granted, you can go into some different buildings across the 2 levels, but it's more or less a reused level, which has happened in the Dishonored games previously, but the previous Dishonored games have also had more than 5 levels, so this is a bit of a bigger portion of the game is redundant, I guess you could say. Also, one of the levels that you didn't revisit in Death of the Outsider is actually a level straight up ripped out of Dishonored 2. However, the events of Death of the Outsider take place after Dishonored 2. So you're revisiting an old locale you've been to before. Things are different because time has passed. But it's still, I mean, of the 5 levels, to go revisit one that you've seen in a previous game, a little bit disappointed. I would have liked more completely brand new environments to traverse. But obviously that probably saved them a lot of time and enabled them to create this game in probably less than a year. So I can forgive it.
All I want to know is there more or less whale oil everywhere?
This game was seeping with whale oil.
Awesome.
I have good things to say. One of the levels is definitely like a standout one. It's called the bank job. You get to go all Ocean's 11 on a bank.
Okay.
It's pretty well done. Are you familiar with Mark Brown and his YouTube channel, Game Maker's Toolkit?
That sounds like a TaskBot channel, but no.
No, it's really good stuff. He did a video dedicated to the 5 video game levels of 2017 he deemed to be the most interesting, the best. And he actually, one of the slots was taken up by Death of the Outsider's bank job level. It's a very good one. You could have just a plethora of options to invade this bank and steal the contents from within. So many different routes of approach, and you can like flood the air ducts with a knockout gas to render everyone inside the bank incapacitated.
Sick.
You don't have to do that. You can go in stealthily without that advantage. And there's a big build up to getting that knockout gas. So you definitely feel rewarded if you put in the effort to get it. From Dishonored 2, there's one level called the Dust District, where the objective is to infiltrate this old dilapidated manor. And what's preventing you from getting inside the manor is this very ornate door with a very interesting lock on it. The lock was made by this eccentric inventor named Jin Dosh, and what's eccentric about this lock is it's not unlocked by a key, it's unlocked by a riddle. A riddle that's very much like a logic puzzle you'd find on the SAT. It's like, these 5 nobles were at a party. the so-and-so and so-and-so were wearing blue and green, but the green person also had this piece of jewelry on, and this other person who you're not sure who they're talking about brought this gift.
Yeah.
And you have to like fill out the whole logic truth table to figure out
Who sat in the big chair.
who actually corresponds to which person in the story. And it's a very like involved one. There's a lot of variables in the puzzle. So the whole level is there's 2 factions in the city. You can choose to ally yourself with one of them or the other one. And in doing so, they each have the information you need to solve this puzzle.
Okay.
Instead of doing any of that, what I appreciate so much about Arcane Studios, what they did in this level, was you can reach this lock at the very beginning of the level. You can say, thanks, but no thanks, Arcane Studios. I appreciate that you spent months designing this level. I'm just going to sit down at this lock and try to crack it myself.
Yeah.
And then just completely skip over this entire level.
Pen and paper with the clues.
So on my second playthrough of Dishonored 2, I sat down with a piece of paper and scribbled on it for like half an hour to 45 minutes.
I would do, yeah.
Trial and error.
Logic puzzles are fun.
I got frustrated. My next thing was like, let's just look this up.
Pull up the wiki.
But there's enough variables here, and they randomize it for every person. Every time you load up the level, they randomize the solution. So you can't look up, you can't cheat. So there's no solution online, but I did pull up like an in-browser truth table solver assistant, so you could like check boxes and it would like jump to some conclusions for you.
Yeah.
So another half hour of that, I finally cracked it, and I got through that way. I was talking about Dishonored 2 this whole time, but in the bank heist level in Death of the Outsider, there is another Jindosh lock. So you can have fun with that once again. On my first playthrough, I wasn't up to the task, but maybe on my second playthrough, I'll try to solve this lock as well.
So what I want to know is who publishes this? Arcane?
It's published by Bethesda, developed by Arcane Studios, who is owned by Bethesda.
Okay, so is there... I'm glad that they allow you to solve the puzzle without having to go through the faction thing. Does it feel fleshed out after you unlock it, even though you haven't interacted with the 2 factions?
Oh, are you saying are there like story implications for not going to talk to these factions?
I'm saying does the game try to like jump the gun and be like, you know these people, even though you didn't get the chance?
It definitely doesn't fall into that trap.
Good. Okay, because I got an anecdote.
Okay, hit me with it.
Well, okay, I watched a Naked Jakey video on. Do you know him? He's like the latest video game essayist.
I'll have to look him up later.
He's had like a meteoric rise, but he did a video on Rockstar's gameplay and how it's out of date.
I actually saw the video thumbnail in my feed. I have not watched it.
With that big gray yoga ball.
Yes, that's the one.
So the details that he goes into, or his disappointments rather, are not being able to interact with characters to a greater extent than the Fallout 4 yes, no, sarcastic, you know what I'm talking about there?
Yeah.
He references a specific poker game, and I'm spoiling the video for you, but it's related to your Dishonored New Vegas playthrough. The poker game that's happening above like a gun store is accessible if you donate to this beggar across the street, and he gives you a hint. Now, Naked Jakey did some exploring beforehand and found a part of the poker game, the part of the building where it's at, but he had yet to donate to the beggar. So although there was like a guard standing by a door, you couldn't greet him, antagonize him, unlike all the other NPCs in the game. So that's indicative of Rockstar being like, you're going to experience this gameplay the way we want you to, rather than the way the player happens upon it. He let me know of one thing in Grand Theft Auto 3 where you can put a bomb in a target's car way ahead of the mission, and then instead of having to go through like a chase sequence when your target gets in the vehicle, you can just detonate it and mission complete. Whereas in current Rockstar games, you try to figure out something, mission failed. So I'm glad to see that Dishonored has allowed for you to play the game the way you want to play it.
Very much so. I guess you could say Rockstar is trying to have its cake and eat it too. They want to offer you a huge immersive open world and the freedom that comes with it, but then also hamstring you when they have a very specific cinematic story moment they want you to see no matter what.
To their credit, it's really hard to complete both.
Yeah, it's probably the best solution is a happy balance between the two. It sounds like maybe they erred on the side of being too ham-fisted on the cinematic moments.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one more thing to say about Death of the Outsider. A cool new thing it added that ended up biting me in the butt. There's something called contracts in this game, which no previous Dishonored game has featured. It's just kind of like an optional objective. You'll get a bunch of them during the course of a mission, and if you complete them, at the end of the mission, you are rewarded with either more money or more bone charms.
More whale oil.
Yeah, more whale oil to bathe in.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot the bone charms. Those are really cool. It's basically just Skyrim Fusro Dawes, right?
They're kind of like perks. For example, you could get a bone charm that...
Yeah, but it's like... like the one I'm thinking of is the blink, where you move forward.
Those are more like powers. Bone charms are not as effective as those.
I should play this game before I talk.
Bone charms are like when you eat food, you'll regenerate a little more health than normal.
Okay.
Or something like that. They're usually passive abilities. Some are active. Anyway, these contracts, they're fun. They add a little more spice to a mission. Except on the fourth mission of the game, there's a contract where you have to render a very specific key piece of personnel unconscious, put him in a like secure location, and then kill every single other enemy in the level. So definitely not completing this on your pacifist run. It's a very tough one to do, but there's also a big reward. You get a big payout at the end. So naturally, I'm definitely going to do
Challenge
this.
accepted.
Going to do this contract. So I always very painstakingly and very thoroughly comb through the Dishonored level. That's what I like so much about it, just going room by room, staying silent as a mouse.
Finding exploits and like the guards' walk patterns. And...
Oh yeah, for sure. And then this is a game that like rewards looking in every nook and cranny. You'll find like secret passageways and new items and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. I do my totally normal, super slow and methodical playthrough of this level, killing everyone. And then I reached the end of the level. I'm like ready to pack up and go. I haven't quite completed it, but I figure I'm like missing an enemy or two. A Dishonored gives you like an objective marker on what you need to do next. And this objective marker is just not showing up. So I go to Google, I like look up a walkthrough of this level, and there's a person who's like supposed to be meditating on this stage, and I needed to go talk to her to complete the mission.
Mm-hmm.
I go to where she's supposed to be, and she's not there. I look at all the bodies around in the local vicinity to see if I had like killed her accidentally. She's none of them. I go up to where she's supposed to be standing, and then all of a sudden, I see the prompt to talk to someone, but I'm just looking at thin air.
Oh, the model's missing?
So her model's missing. No big deal. I hit talk. We have the conversation. No dialogue plays, but like the objective is fulfilled, even though I didn't get the conversation. I could have just ended the level there and continued on my playthrough. The one problem is I needed to kill her to complete that contract because she was still alive and she was considered an enemy.
Oh.
So I got creative. I threw like area of effect grenades and bombs all around this stage. I tried stabbing her. I tried everything. None of it was registering. She didn't have a hitbox, apparently.
Oh.
So at that point, I restart the level. I turn it down to easy. And I'm pretty irritated at this point. So I am just sprinting through these levels.
It's actually more canonical for you to be angry in your blood rage.
I'm throwing caution to the wind. I like you don't get many bullets in Dishonored. You have to like conserve your ammo. I'm just pumping guys full of lead until they drop. I'm grenades, you need to like save those for emergencies. No, I just lead with them.
Yeah.
Just clearing out rooms. I eviscerate this level.
Okay.
On easy. She spawned correctly that time. Still didn't get the confirmation that I killed everyone. And I'm like, I've combed every room I was in previously.
Who are you forgetting?
So I walk around the level for like another 15 minutes. Eventually, you can I'm looking at every body. You see in parentheses their status, whether they're dead or unconscious.
Was one of them stunned?
I come to this one janky body where his whole torso is embedded in a wall. I only see his butt and legs hanging out.
It's clipping, yeah.
I put my cursor over him. Next to his name, I see the text unconscious.
Sick.
I slash him.
Stab him in the butt.
I slash him, contract is completed, and then I let out a sigh of relief and then finish the level. So that kind of tainted my experience with the game. I've never encountered a bug like that before. I looked online, no one else had run into this issue as far as I could tell. Mm-hmm. So it was probably just a freak occurrence that happened to me. So I can't really hold it against the game, but it definitely reduced my enjoyment.
But still, like a 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10?
Yeah, probably
for what it is.
Just throwing it out there, 8.5 out of 10 maybe. Yeah, I enjoyed it. The last level has some very evocative imagery. Recommend if you like Dishonored, you'll like this game. If you haven't played Dishonored before, don't start with this one. Play the first game and then the second game, and then only then, if you're still hankering for more, only then play this game. I'm glad I got to sit down with it. That's about all I have to say regarding Dishonored: Death of the Outsider.
Cool. It's good to hear you enjoy it. I have one more correction that I wanted to do. Oh, I don't want to necessarily say it's a correction. I was right.
Of course.
I played more HQ on stream with my brother.
Okay.
The correction would be that I said the level system, it's limited by season. I think I forgot to mention that last time. And the season is 8 days. So there's no chance that you're going to be able to progress to level 10 in 8 days. I did find the points. It's 50,000 points to reach level 10. Just playing with Seth in my free time, I earned 3,000 points in a day. So that's not feasible. We got pretty far. We got to question 9. So I'm enjoying that still. There was one question in the game about a certain 90s sitcom actor suing a Epic Games company.
Oh, okay.
Check out that transition. We're going into the news, and I wanted to talk about first all the Fortnite dance lawsuits going on these days. Are you aware of this?
I think I heard a whisper of this, but I am woefully uninformed.
All right, so one of the questions, the answer was Alfonso Ribeiro, the Fresh Prince actor. It was which show did he perform the Carlton dance on? And you know what the Carlton is, right? I don't have to do it in front of you?
I don't know what it is. You will have to demonstrate for me.
All right, so it goes like this. It's you swing your arms and you do this, and you'll notice they rip it perfectly into, I forget what they call it in Fortnite, because they're not going to call it the Carlton, because that'll just support Alfonso's
suit.
Yeah, but anyway, Alfonso is suing, as far as I know, Epic Games, and he's not alone. There's also 2 Millie, who as the originator of the Millie Rock. You've seen 9-year-olds do that move, right?
I just regret that our listeners can't see you now, and with your flawless choreography.
We should have a visual component to this episode. And then there's also Russell Horning, who you know as the Backpack Kid from Katy Perry music videos. He is credited as the inventor of the floss. You know the flossing.
Oh, I do know the floss.
Yeah, let it be known to audio listeners that Chris is demonstrating the floss without request. The floss is in Fortnite. The Millie Rock is in Fortnite, called Swipe It. What is your opinion on intellectual property regarding dances?
So they're not claiming that Epic Games has imitated their likeness without permission?
Alfonso Ribeiro alleges that Epic Games used his dance without permission or credit. So that's the issue here is, these people who start these dance crazes, they weren't contacted,
right,
or compensated.
If I was a betting man, I'd say these cases very much sound like they'll be handled outside of court and settled probably amicably between the company and the people who are, I guess, victims, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it at that. Do you have any other newses?
We're kind of, after the cascade of news that was last week, December is traditionally kind of quiet in terms of video game news.
Oh, I do want to mention one piece of news that's really sad. One of my favorite YouTube channels, Super Best Friends Play, have disbanded after 9 years of creating content.
It had been
together.
9 years.
Yeah, dude. One of their first videos was a Silent Hill game from like way back, however many years ago. And I wouldn't say that I've been following them since the beginning, but I've at least been listening to their podcast for hundreds of episodes and watching them since like the beginning of college. So it's really sad, especially, because the brand is called Best Friends Play, and one of the first parts of their announcement video is like, yeah, we're no longer friends. And that just like really hit the subreddit pretty hard. And I've been along with the Redditors in their coping, and I wish them the best of luck on their own individual projects. Like I'm following all of their individual streams. So that was in between last episode and this one. So that I guess it falls into news.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you guided me towards their Persona 5 spoiler podcast, correct?
I did.
Yeah, I listened to that and I liked it a lot.
Oh, good.
Despite their misguided opinions on
Futaba
Makoto.
Okay. Well, maybe was it you that ended the channel? I guess we'll never know. So that's news. If you haven't seen their prolific catalog of Let's Plays, go over to Super Best Friends Play. That's it for news, I think.
A light week.
Yes. So, should I get into my question?
Yes, please do.
My question for you, Chris, is it's the state of controllers.
Okay.
Have we reached controller perfection, and whatever developments do you anticipate happening with respect to controllers? Let me dive in. So we played Super Smash Bros. And as I said, I was anticipating playing with a Joy-Con, but thankfully I had the Switch Pro controller. And that thing, despite having the A button and B button, not where I'm used to, it looks so similar to my Xbox controller. Because I don't have a PlayStation or anything, but I know that the DualShock and the Xbox controllers are pretty similar with the exception of like analog stick placements. I couldn't be more satisfied with the one you gave me, and I asked you, how was the Joy-Cons shoved into the
Joy-Con grip is
Yes.
what it's called, I think.
And I asked you how that was, and you said, no issues. So I couldn't have been happier with Nintendo's side of things. I also want to talk about how I downloaded Street Fighter V for my PC because they had like a free weekend.
Uh-huh.
And I was going to play co-op with my brother, with him on the Xbox controller, because we don't have a fight stick. Him on Xbox and me on my keyboard.
Oh, dear.
Have you ever tried to input
Half circle rotations and
Yes.
stuff like that with the analog sticks?
I could not for the life of me input a Hadouken, which is the Pikachu of fighting game moves, because all I had was WASD on my keyboard.
What was it telling you to do?
Oh, it's quarter circle turn, medium, upper.
So
if I can
that's
say
like
that. Or excuse me, that's just a light hit or any hit. I'm a fighting game whiz.
sure.
I've been following Super Best Friends. No, actually, if you want to know how to use fighting game controllers, go over to Wooly Versus's. Excuse me, Wooly Versus is the channel that you need to reach out to. There, he was a now former member of the Super Best Friends. But yes, I tried to do a Hadouken, but I couldn't do the quarter circle movement. And then when I went over to I test out the Xbox controller, it's still really hard to do it on an analog stick.
I've always struggled with that maneuver too.
Like, I don't know what these people are doing with the fight, like the boxes.
A fight stick?
Like an actual stick. But it must be leagues and bounds easier, because then there's also the Shoryuken, right? Mm-hmm. That one you got to do like a Z formation with the stick. I could not do it reliably, even with the Xbox controller. So, something to think about with the discussion about controllers. The other thing that Xbox is doing recently is they have the Xbox Adaptive Controller. Have you seen that commercial?
I have seen it.
Okay, I did some research. That commercial is called Reindeer Games. It launched, well, the controller itself launched in September, but they're just trying to cash in on the holiday season. It features 9-year-old gamer Owen Sermons, who has a disability that makes it really hard for him to use a regular controller. So they gave him the adaptive one. And like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, kind of, he's different, but he's still like special kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
So the ad's called Reindeer Games because, games, and then holiday season. And Owen's disability, but he's still able to crush it on whatever game they're playing. I wish they could show what game he's playing because it looks like a lot of fun. But have you seen the controller itself?
This is like the controller that's spearheading like increased accessibility. You can plug in all sorts of different peripherals into it to serve as inputs.
Yes, but like the controller itself, even though it's got like mad peripherals, you got the D-pad, and then you have these two just massive buttons that are basically A and B.
They're kind of like depressions. Is that correct?
No, I think they're concave.
Okay.
Which is the opposite. Someone cue up concave versus convex.
I never remember which one is which.
It's so hard. Anyone who's in AP Physics right now and you're doing mirrors and and virtual images and stuff, and you got to do the convex, concave. What are some other things from that unit?
Remember
focal length? Yeah. Well, not refractions, but just like you have to do the focal length, and then whether or not an image is inverted, real, larger, smaller.
Yeah,
with concave,
you're taking
convex
me
mirrors.
back.
Yeah, dude, that is instantaneously forgotten after the exam. I mean, I can recall kinematics and stuff, but images and reflections from mirror, like just straight mirrors.
It's practically the dark arts.
Cue the biggest brain on the bottom of the meme. So
what were you saying about the buttons that are?
Well, now that we've reached, this is the assumption. Now that we've reached controller perfection, because everyone's copying like the DualShock, Xbox, Nintendo Pro Controller, they all look the same. Our company's just going to focus on making these adaptive controllers really cool, and then maybe we'll discover something really ubiquitous in the adaptive that we just poured over to like not normal people controllers, but just like the non-accessibility
the
ones.
mainstream controllers.
Yeah. Because I don't know, maybe you can do quarter circle turns like in Shoryukens on the adaptive controller super easy. The last thing that I wanted to mention before I get to your answer, and I know you're dying to chime in. So Sony is not going to be at E3 this year.
In 2019.
Right. Which means the PS5 is due in 2020.
Most popular opinion says that due to them skipping E3, they're probably going to put on some sort of event of their own to announce the PS5. It's kind of anyone's guess whether they put it in 2020 or I guess maybe late 2019, although I don't believe that'll
I'm putting it in
happen.
2020.
I think 2020 is the year. Whether it is in the spring or the fall, that I'm less sure about.
Oh, it's got to be after E3.
After the E3 of 2020?
Yeah. That's when they announce it. And that it's coming out in the fall.
Okay,
you
that's
heard
what
it
you
here
think.
first.
I'm almost wondering that the Switch proved the viability of launching in the spring, and Sony might try to emulate that launch strategy.
Okay.
In spring of 2020.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. My point was this. The DualShock is pretty much a lock for the PS5's controller. And we're just going to call it the PS5, even though they might do something wacky.
It's a safe bet.
How confident are you that it's going to be like just a shinier DualShock that we're used to? The current DualShock is the 4.
That's right.
So, do you think we're going to have a DualShock 5? Will it be the same thing that we have come to know as the apex of controllers? And then, do you think companies are just going to focus on the accessibility front and take whatever is really good about that and maybe bring it to the mainstream? Or do you think next generation's consoles and peripheries are going to be different?
There's a lot to unpack with this question.
Yeah, I came swinging.
First of all, I totally agree. I don't think there's room for debate that the controllers, they're emulating a design that's very close to one another.
It's like a logarithmic
curve.
Yeah.
The differences between the controllers are being shaved down with each generation.
Right.
We're no longer getting atrocities like the N64 controller.
Or the Duke.
Or the Duke from the original Xbox.
Right. I never had an N64 controller.
But you've seen them. You've held one before.
No, I've never held one, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, you're better off for it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So they're very much getting closer and closer to one another. And I guess you're asking, do you think the trend is going to continue? Or are we losing something because of this trend?
I mean, if I make a bet that the DualShock 5 is going to look, analog sticks here, buttons there, select, start, D-pad. Are we going to have? Are there going to be any changes like under the hood? Are we just going to make the rumble sexier? Like, what about like the new Xbox controller that has like the hair triggers on the bottom? You just gotta like fondle the underside of it. Like, what do you expect?
That's the like Xbox Elite controller with the triggers on the back.
Yeah.
So I guess
you could probably do a surgery on a grape with that controller.
Looking at the DualShock 4, I guess the one weird thing about it that stands out is that it has that big touchscreen on the front that most games just use as a glorified start button.
Doesn't it have, can't you do Astrobot, Robot, Rescue, Robot?
I don't know how Astrobot Rescue Mission utilizes the touchscreen, if at all. I think what a lot of people are saying is that Sony would be foolish not to include some sort of PS4 game backward compatibility on the PS5.
God of War.
Yeah, I think there'll be a way to play PS4 games natively on the PS5. And that would mean, for the couple titles that you do use the touchscreen, there'd have to be some way to also incorporate that functionality into the PS5 controller. Like Infamous Second Son, for example. To suck up smoke, you have to like swipe on the touchscreen.
Interesting.
And if that's not present in... I guess they've either locked themselves in with the PS5 controller. If they want to bring backwards compatibility to the platform, they'll need a touchscreen just like the PS4 controller has, or they'll need to find some workaround for it.
Just blow on the mic. That's, I know, in Captain Toad, to make some platforms lift, you have to blow on the Wii U. It uses the microphone to register if you've blown on it. And then, like, little fans will spin and lift you up to the higher platform. So just think about it, Infamous.
I think probably the console manufacturer who's least likely to do something crazy in the controller hardware space is probably Microsoft.
Yeah.
Sony, I mean, they've shown like with the touchpad and with the controller has some motion controls built into it to some extent, and the light bar on it, and also like the built-in microphone on the controller. It can talk to you, like in Transistor. It's a super giant game, so like it's known for its like a narrator in the game. The Transistor, the sword, is the narrator, and instead of coming through your speakers on your TV, the voice comes through the microphone on your PS4 controller.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a disembodied voice. That's a cool feature. They throw these little weird gimmicky things into a controller. So I think they'll continue that legacy, but they're very much the form factor of the controller, I think, won't change all that much. Nintendo is probably the most likely to go do something crazy and off the wall.
Yeah, but what are they going to do? Make it out of cardboard?
Good one.
Ship it, Nintendo.
I think there's pros and cons to the trend that the controllers are becoming more and more similar. When you pick up a game, you more or less know how it's going to play, which is, I think, one of the reasons that Red Dead Redemption 2, its controls received some flack because they did some kind of unorthodox things, which made people like slightly uncomfortable. This isn't exactly how I'm used to third-person shooters controlling.
Yeah, you gotta like draw the weapon some way, somehow.
I hear like the button to interact with someone and to shoot is like shared by the same button.
Yeah.
So you'll walk up to someone and blast his head off by mistake.
Whether or not you're holding down the left trigger or something. I will have played Red Dead by next episode, so.
I'm in favor of what PC games do, which is you go into the options and you can rebind every single action in the game to whatever key you want. Why not just give people options? I don't know why
I did that for Nidhogg.
more console games should do that. it doesn't take much time or effort to implement. And I guess the one knock against it is the developers have a certain intent and they want you to play the game the way they think it should be experienced. But I say if they want to switch 2 buttons because that makes them more comfortable, you should give them the freedom to do so.
Yeah.
I feel like I rambled on some subjects that were tangential to your question. Have I addressed everything you...
You did. Your thoughts on what the DualShock 5 will look like are probably similar to mine. You're a little more interested in to see what Nintendo's next generation of controllers is going to look like. I think they're going to kind of settle in. I don't think Nintendo's going to whip out some crazy motion sensing. I think they nailed it with the Switch. I think the Switch is just the Wii 2. And I think the next one is going to be the Wii 2.5. You know what I'm trying to say there?
Yeah, I think I do.
Yeah. And then Microsoft, we're going to get the big boy version X, whatever they're on.
And as someone who's like, I like what's familiar. I like that the controllers I know what I'm getting with each of them. I will say that I agree that there's like some potential to, when we have a very static controller design, that could potentially limit what a game could potentially be. Mm-hmm. If you had some completely different controller design that no one had thought of before, that could lend itself to creating a whole new genre of games, potentially. It's hard to say because I'm implying that this is an idea no one has thought of before, so obviously I don't have a solution to it. But I'd say there's some value to experimenting as well.
Well said, and we look forward to the results of those experiments. That's it for my question.
I liked the question very much.
Oh, thank you. I did some research. Shout out to Owen Sermons. Shall we get into the mail?
Yeah, we shall. We received an email at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com.
Make sure that's plugged.
And just like this writer, you too can write to us and have your email read on the show.
We will read all the emails to our comfort.
Within reason, we will read all the emails.
Yeah.
This one comes to us from a Justin.
Hey, Justin.
He took a very formal approach here. I'll read his email verbatim. I wish you good evening. After listening to parts of your podcast, I became absorbed in the crisp audio and wispful conversation between both of you. Thank you so much, Justin. I request more information on your background. This is the first email of many. Please write back.
Hey.
From your devoted listener, Justin. So Justin feels like he may not know that much about us personally.
Well, I mean, episode 1, we didn't say what our horoscopes were.
We jumped right into the meat of the show.
Because we had a Game Awards to predict.
We were under a crunch, a deadline.
Okay, so do you want to start? What does he want to know?
He wants to know more about our background. Should this be our background in general, our gaming background, some combination of the two?
Yeah.
Why don't you lead us off?
Okay, yeah. My name is Heath. I'm 23, and I work in film and television after I graduated in May from the University of Buffalo. And I don't know if I want to go into too much detail.
Right.
The 3 digits on the back are... But yeah, I graduated and now I just work in movies and television. And I mean, you can catch me on my Twitch or my YouTube, which is just my name. That's it for like my vanilla background. I'll get into my gaming background after you.
Sure. My name is Chris. I'm 22 years old. I'm a software developer with a background in computer science. Just like Heath, I graduated from the University at Buffalo. But we actually go back even further than that. We were high school friends. Video games aren't the only interest we share. We also have a mutual fondness for hobby board games.
Tabletop games, yeah.
Tabletop games, yeah. Frequently, we attend game nights together. It's a great time.
Yeah, we host them, and yeah, that's how we know each other. We should include our gaming background. I'm certain, if we neglect to say that, another question will come up and be like, what was your favorite GameCube game? You had a GameCube, right?
I never owned a GameCube.
That was my first console.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
My first game for it. Well, it came with Metroid Prime, I think. I was too much of a baby to get past the part where they take away your powers. But my first games that I remember playing on that system. Oh wait, I should say that I had a Nintendo DS, or not a DS.
Game Boy?
Advanced SP.
Game Boy Advanced SP.
Advanced SP. That's a winner of a console. Handheld.
That clamshell design was sleek.
Yes. And I remember getting sand in it at the playground at one point, and the screen went not dark, but like it wasn't displaying the picture. But I could follow along with the sound of Pokemon Sapphire, so I was able to keep playing without the screen.
Wow.
For a time. And then I was like, Mom, it broke my game. And then she fixed it.
So the audio design in the game was so well designed that you could play it off of the audio cues alone.
Yes, 10 out of 10. Flashback to 2006. Hopefully, Pokemon Sapphire won the Game Awards Best Sound Design. Anyway, quickly after the GameCube came the Wii. I mean, that's probably the case for many families. And then we went to Xbox. And there was actually like quite a bit discussion among my brother and my parents as to whether or not we were going to go PlayStation or Xbox. And I think we made the right choice.
This was the 360?
Time. Yes, versus the PS3. And I think we made the right choice because most of our friends were playing Call of Duty on Xbox. And that was our main, we got the Xbox in time for Modern Warfare 2. I don't think I really missed out on the PlayStation titles except for the Uncharted's. And, well, now I really wish I could play Detroit Become Human, but that's how it's been. There's an Xbox in the corner over there.
Yes, and Xbox One S by the look of it.
That's my background. I think my most unique gaming experience is I played Call of Duty 5 World at War on the Wii. So I had to point the Wii remote as the gun cursor and move around with the nunchuck. That's
right. The Wii got all sorts of weird third-party support you wouldn't expect because it was so popular.
So that's how my gaming beginning happened.
Well, we had different routes to where we currently are.
Which is good.
Yeah, I started with Sony platforms. My first console was a PlayStation 1. We received 2 games to start. We had Crash Bandicoot and kind of an arcade collection of like retro games. Mm. But my favorites quickly became the original 3 Spyro games by Insomniac and also Crash Team Racing. Those were the highlights of the PlayStation 1. From there, we went to a PlayStation 2, just kind of brand loyalty, I guess. I remember looking at a catalog of games because we still received game catalogs back then and making the decision between getting a PlayStation 2 or a Nintendo GameCube must have been the competition at the time because we haven't even heard of an Xbox. So we went with the PlayStation 2, had that for several years. From there, we went to a Wii because who didn't have a Wii? Wii Sports was like a killer app. Everyone wanted it. Played a lot of like Mario sports games on the Wii. Played Super Mario Galaxy. That was a great time. And then I had kind of like a gaming dark ages, we'll call it, from circa 2008 through 2011, like a solid 3 years where I wasn't playing many games at all.
Okay.
The only games I was playing were like on my iPod Touch at the time. That was
like Peggle.
I wasn't even playing like the good games. These were.
What are these? Like Othello?
I like Plants vs. Zombies.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So my interest in gaming waned greatly during these time of like 8th grade, 9th grade, and halfway through 10th grade.
And then it resurged with Assassin's Creed.
And then Christmas of 2011. The gaming interest was rekindled with a gift of an Xbox 360 and the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Oh.
Skyrim is what brought me back to the fold, and I haven't left since.
Praise Todd.
It was an amazing December and January I spent with Skyrim. I got all the achievements. I was just addicted. And now these days, I'd say if a game is available on the PC, that's where I would prefer to play it. Mm-hmm. But I won't shy away if a game is exclusive to a console. I'll happily go out and play it on either my PS4 or my Switch if it has the reputation of being a good game.
All right. That's a pretty good backstory. If you want to know more details, you can go to mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com and ask away, people.
Yes, please do. We're eager to hear from more listeners.
Chris, what is the last game you're going to play in 2018?
I have one picked out. I'm very excited to dive into it, but I think I'll leave the listeners in suspense until next time, when I'm sure I'll have much more to say about it.
Okay. I anticipate playing Red Dead 2, and I want to play Into the Breach. So I think I'll try to get that.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on both of those games. They're
it's
hotly anticipated.
Right. All right. That's it for this episode.
Thank you for your time, Heath. Thank you for your time, listeners. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Mobius Tubes. Write to us at mobiustubespodcast@gmail.com, and you'll be sure to hear from us soon.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.